Okay, good afternoon. Are there any doubts?
Sir, if I want to put the image in center, sir, image view, so for
Yeah.
that, what I have to write? Sir? I use function, but
Yeah,
book.
if you are,
Yes, sir.
when also I mentioned in the yesterday's section, if you are adding some parameters, whatever it will be an image, it will be an text view. If you are adding one parameters, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now you can see this was my first text view. If I'm adding here the parameters, then for the gravity, I have to set the gravity to these params. You can't set the directly gravity to this text view because now the text view is wrapped inside this parameter. If you are applying the text view the gravity, it won't be applied to this parameter. So if you want to gravity to work, you have to apply gravity to this. And when we are adding the gravity to parameters, we use like this: params dot gravity, then equal to sign, and gravity dot center.
Okay, sir.
Same, let me show the output here. This was my image view. Now here also I'm wrapping my image view inside the layout params. So if you want the gravity to work, you can just apply the params here, dot gravity and equal to gravity dot center. It will apply the gravity. But when you are not using the layout parameters, then directly you can add the gravity to your image view or any text view. I guess image view don't give you the option of directly gravity, so you need the parameter. Yes. Any other doubts?
Sir, if I want to apply the top margin for the button from the
Yeah,
image view, so what should I do, sir?
you have to wrap it inside one layout parameter, and you have to give the margin to that parameter.
Okay, sir.
Whenever you are applying any margin to anything, if you are applying margin, you have to wrap that particular thing inside one layout parameters, and then you have to give margin to that parameters, like we have did in the first text view. We are wrapping this text view inside this parameter, and then we are adding this parameter some margin. You can see the params dot set margin, and we are giving the margin here. The same thing will be applied to all other things.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubts, Pravina ma'am?
No, sir.
You have you guys completed the task?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll start with our JSON parsing. Now JSON parsing is very important when you work on any web development or any Android development, because when we are building a professional app, we will be dealing with a lots of users and lots of data. We can't just rely on your database to get all the load. If you are giving lots of load to your server, it will crash. So mainly what the big companies do is they build an API. That API we can call, and we can get some data from that API. So for that, when we call that API, that will give you the return data in the JSON format. So when we get the JSON formatted data, we have to convert that into a string, and then we store it in array, and then we get the data from that array. So the same thing we will do here, but we will not call any other API from the online. We will create our own JSON formatted data. So what you have to do is you have to just right click on your app section here in your Android only, then go to new, and after here after your activity and fragment, you will get an another section of folder. This folder, not you do not make any folder from the directory or module level here. You have to make use of this folder section and go in this folder section, and you get the second option, assets folder. You have to use that assets folder. When you create one asset folder, it will create a folder like this. Now in this folder, I want to add my JSON formatted file. So what you can do is just right click on it, go in new, and create one file. Go in file, and you have to name this as .json. I'm user .json. Okay. Now once that is done, the, I will create one manual data, like which we'll get from the API only. So first, when we are dealing with the JSON format, it will start with the curly braces, and then we have to put one array name here. I'm mentioning the array name as users, then one semicolon, and how the array starts, it will start with the square brackets, then that's brackets. Then inside this, we have to mention our data in the key format, structure formatted data. So first we will start one array instance, yes, the curly bracket. Then in our old layout, what else we are getting was, we are getting the name, we are getting the age, I am getting my PU college, and I am getting my engineering college. We will make the key pair value of that sections. The first thing, I will make a key as name, yes, and then semicolon, and again the string, and I'll give some data to that key. Yes, now when it is a non, it is not a last data inside my array, so it is not a last data, so you have to give the uh, semicolon. Yeah, then again the next thing was my age. Yes, then I have to put some data here. Then again one comma, then again another key here, the key with the second, I'll call it as PU college, and the data. Then this was the not my last data, so I also have to give one comma here. Then my last data, which will be my engineering college, and some data here. And this time it was my last key pair value, so you don't need to give comma here. And if you want multiple data inside your this same array, you have to just apply here the again one comma, and you have to start on another curly braces, so you can put multiple things inside the same array. So I'm just dealing with the only one user, so I'm only creating one instance in that array, and this will be my data inside this array. So now I want to retrieve this data with this key names. Okay, so what you have to do is, in your main activity or Java file, or wherever you are creating the dynamic layouts, so go back here, and I will create one function after my on create. Here is on my on create is ending, so I will create one private function here, which will give me a return as a string. I'm expecting the return as the string, and then the function name. I will just call it as get JSON data. Yes, and then in this function I have to uh, do some function methods which will give me and string formatted of this JSON data. Okay, we have to convert this whole thing in one string. So what you have to do is, first I will make one string here, which will be an JSON. I'll call it a JSON, and I'll put empty here. It is an empty string for this now. Then I will start. First, we have to access this particular folder inside our asset folder. So what I will do is, I'll start on input stream. Yes. Then I'll call it the same as the input stream, and then get assets dot open. And here in the open, you have to mention your file name. My file name was user.json. Yes. Now it will open your file. So with this instance, it will open your file. Now you have to deal with that file to get some data. So first I will need the size of that particular thing. So I will create one int size here, and then input stream dot available. So it will give you the size of that. Then you can see I'm getting one error here. So this is saying me, because these are the JSON, because this type of data we get from the API, and API are called from the internet, right? So there might be a delay sometimes while getting the data, or there might be no data also. There are some exceptions, so we have to handle that also. So it is giving me a suggestion to surround it with the try and catch feature. So we have to do the same thing, but I will not only just try this size method. I will just wrap all the things inside the try method. I will just wrap this try here also, and we will accept all data, not only IO exceptions. We will accept all the exceptions we are getting from our input stream or any other things. Then once we got the size, we have to convert this JSON file into the bit formatted array list. So what you can do, just bit and the array. Then you have to give it a name. I will give it as buffer data, and then new bin, and here you have to pass that size. It will be considered as the bit array list size. Then again I'm calling my input stream, and this time I'm reading the data from this array which we have declared. Then once that reading is done, I have to close this input stream. Okay, now what all we did is we have first retrieved our this file inside from our asset folder. Then we are declaring the size. Then we are creating one bit array list, and there we are mentioning the size of that array as the size same from my JSON formatted data. Then I'm reading the data, and then I'm closing the stream. When I'm closing the stream, I need the data to be stored inside one string here. So I already created one string named of JSON here, so I'm referring that. Then new, then string, and here you have to pass two things inside the string. One, which is the data which be readed, and in which formatted you want to read that data. So first we are reading here, I'm creating the array list here, so you have to pass that buffer data. Then you have to also pass the character set name. If you go here in your XML file, you can see this first line. Yes, this is saying me the XML version is 1.0 and the encoding is in the UTF-8. Yes, this is a character set. It is used to encoding the data or decoding data. So we have to mention the same thing here, UTF-8, not underscore, hyphen. Yes, UTF-8. Now once we got that JSON data, we have to return this from our function. So here you have to just mention return JSON. So now what will happen is whenever we call this function, I will get some JSON formatted data inside my string. So once that is done, are there any doubts here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Now once it is converted to a string, I want to refer some data from this string. Yeah, as you can see, these are the in the key pair value. So we can directly call this key and we will get the data of that key. So what you have to do is, when in the onCreate method only, first I will create some empty strings here. We already use the name, so I'm mentioning at the m name. Then the age, and then what one we want to purify. And then I got it. Yes, I created 4 empty strings here. Then when I'm getting some data from that, first I have to call that function here. You can say I've created the function, but I'm not calling it anywhere. So first you have to call that function, but when we need some JSON data, we have to call that from a JSON object. So first you have to create one JSON object here. JSON object, I'll call it a JSON object only, and then new JSON object, and in here in the argument list you have to pass your function from where we are converting that JSON data. Okay, now it is also showing me in red line because this will also give you some exceptions. So we have to surround this with the try and catch feature. Once that is done, now when we get our JSON object, we have to convert that object into an array. So first I will do that. You have to just call the JSON array and the instance of that, and then you have to call your JSON object dot get JSON array. Now you can see inside this JSON data I am mentioning one array named as users. So I am referring this array now. Yes, so I am referring that array now. So you have to mention your array name here. My file name is only user, but my array name is users. So I'm using that array here, not my file name here. So once that is done, we are getting some I'm referring to this array to get the data from here. So when I'm referring that, I will run one for loop here. Int I is equal to 0. Then I should be less than my JSON array length and I plus plus. Okay. Now inside this for loop, we can start retrieving our data, but again we need one JSON object. This type of JSON object again we need from this array now. So how you can do that? You have to just call again the JSON object here, and you have to give it a name. I'm using the name as the user data this time, and this time you have to refer to your JSON array here when you are referring it, and dot get JSON object. And you have to inside this you have to pass the index. I am getting the index from my for loop. I am passing that same index here. Okay. Now what we are doing is we are first we are taking some data from our function as an JSON object here. Yes, I'm taking that function as an JSON object. Then I'm creating one array, JSON array, which will be get you the array here. This array, it will give you that array. Then I'm running on for loop, and inside that also I'm converting this let's say I'm here, so I'm converting it into a JSON object here as the user data. Just once that is converted to a JSON object, we can start retrieving our data. So what you have to do, I will just set the data to these strings first, and then I will use in the text views. So I'll just call that name is equal to user data your JSON object dot get string, and here you have to mention the name of your key. The where I'm referring the name here, I'm referring name my in the name key. So you have to mention that key here, and so this will provide you the any data inside that name key. So next I want the get string, and here that age key. Then my equal. And then the last thing, Django. Yes. Now once that is done, now I don't know it is even storing the data or not. So what I will do is for checking purpose, I will just log this data here. I'll mention it as data. In the data only, and here I will pass those strings here. And then my age here. Then you call it. And so you will check if it is logging some data. So I'll run this app and I will open my logcat here. You can see here is my log.e. It is giving me data with the name. I'm getting my name. I'm getting the age here. I'm also getting my PU college, and also I'm getting my engineering college. So all the data are correctly retrieved. So now we can use these strings to set some text inside our text views. Yes, where I'm mentioning the name, this was my first text view where I'm mentioning the name. That was the hard coded one. Now you can switch that as the key here. Yes, here was my age section, it was also hard coded. We can change that. And then where here it was. You cannot change that. And yeah. Now let's run it. Now you can see I'm getting the data from my JSON object here. These are the data from my JSON. If I change something here, let's say I will change my name only. I'll just mention here as much, and then I'll run it again. Now you can say the name is also here changed. So this is an we main broadly used type of formatting data when we are dealing with the APIs and other things. A lot of companies use this kind of thing. Are there any doubts?
No, sir.
Pravina ma'am, any doubt?
Sir, how to give image as a value?
Can you repeat once again?
How to give image value, sir?
Image value, you can give the URL if you are retrieving it from the like internet. You can just mention here on any image, and you can give the HTTP URL. Yeah? Yes, HTTPS or something, which will be referring to an online image. You can give that, or if you want any image from your drawable section, you can mention that also as a rate drawable slash your image name, and then you can use this as your image resource here. Here you can use that. Where is it? Yeah, this was my image. You can see here also I'm putting the drawables only. In this format also you can get the drawable file at the drawable dot and your image name. You can just retrieve that key value pair here as your image, and you can set it to your image resource here. Is any other doubts?
No, sir.
And if you are retrieving the image from the UI from the internet, you have to mention the set image resource URL. Then only it will check the resource from the internet.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubts?
No, sir.
So Ramya, any doubt?
No, sir.
So is it clear? JSON parsing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So first you have to create one JSON object. You can also get this kind of data from the APIs also. API will provide same kind of data. You will get in this format only. No change in that. When you are calling that, for basically I'm using the file, so I'm using the input stream. If you are dealing with the API, you will call that API here. You will put some URL of your API. Then the same thing other will be same only. You have to encode it in the UTF-8 character set. Then you have to give it the buffer data. Then you have to read that, and you have to convert it into a string. When you are converted that into a string, you have to make one JSON object where you will be providing that string. From this I'm getting the string, so I'm calling that function here. So I will get one string here. When then I'm converting that string into an JSON object, and then I'm creating one JSON array to get all the JSON objects from here inside this array. Then I'm using the for loop to get all the data in this array. Then again I'm converting the any data inside this array in the JSON object here. Yes, and then I'm using that data to use as the key value pairs. Yes, is this all clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can also try this on any free API. There are free APIs provided. You can search that and you can check from there also. Or if you want to, for trying purpose, you can just create your own set of JSON here and you can use that. Okay. So if there are no doubts, we will end this meeting.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.